What are the components that make up the urinary system? The kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, and the urethra. What is the function of the urinary system? The function is to clear the blood of waste products, metabolic, and to regulate the concentration of body fluids. What is the function of the kidneys? Excretory function and endocrine function. What are the endocrine functions of the kidneys? Produce and release into blood a humoral agent, erythropoietin. Produce enzyme that can affect blood pressure, renin. Define the function of the humoral agent, erythropoietin. It's a liquid hormone agent that stimulates red blood cell production. What is the name of the structures that form the base of the cortex of the medulla in the kidneys? Renal pyramids. How many renal pyramids are usually present? 5 to 11. What is the apex of a renal pyramid called? Papilla. Where does it project? Projects toward the cortex region. What is the cortex and medulla of the kidneys? Cortex is the outer portion. Medulla is the inner portion. Where do the ureters usually start? Start of the border lobe of the kidneys. What makes up the renal lobe? Renal pyramids and cortex substance overlying base and sides of renal pyramid. Use for protection. What is located at the papilla of renal pyramid? Area of Krabosa. What is the area of Krabosa composed of? 25 perforations from which filtrate can pass into minor calyx. Where are medullary rays located and what do they do? Medullary rays are located at the base of renal pyramid. Medullary rays go out into the cortex region, representing the continuation of tubes into the cortex. What is the function unit of the kidneys? Nephron, aka uriniferous tubules. What is its function? Function with urine formation. What structure contains the final concentration of urine, which is then conveyed into the renal pelvis? It's a collecting duct. What kind of epithelium lines this structure? Simple columnar. What structures of the function unit of the kidneys, nephron, is composed of simple squamous? Bowman's capsule, glomerulus, and loop of Henle. Simple cuboidal, proximal and distal convoluted tubules. Simple columnar, collecting duct. What is the renal corpuscle made of? A. Bowman's capsule. B. Glomerulus, inside balloon. What are the two poles of the renal corpuscle? Visceral pole and the urinary pole. What structure enters and leaves the visceral pole of the renal corpuscle? Afferent and efferent arterioles. What structure does the capillary epithelium of the urinary lobe of renal corpuscle continue with? It's continuous with the proximal convoluted tubule. What are the two layers of interest of the renal corpuscle? Visceral layer, parietal layer. Parietal layer is the outer layer. What does the visceral layer come in contact with? The visceral layer makes contact with the glomerulus, inside balloon. What is the visceral layer composed of? It's composed of modified cells with large bodies, has primary and secondary extensions, which leads to interdigitation. What does it come from? What does it form? What does the visceral layer form? Extensions that lead to interdigitations form a filter that goes into the capsular space. Extensions that lead to interdigitation form a filter that goes into the capsular space. What are the specialized cells of the visceral layer called? Podocytes, filter cells. What are the specialized cells of the visceral layer called? podocytes, filter cells. What are the two ways the kidneys can appear as? Granulated and striated. What are the granulated areas of the kidneys? Granulated areas are glomerulus, B capsule, proximal and distal convoluted tubules. Striated areas. Striated areas are greater portion of the loop of Henle and greater portion of the collecting duct. What does JG stand for? Juxtaglomerular complex. What do JG cells produce? They produce renin, which is an enzyme, and renin produces angiotensinogen, which is a plasma globulin. Angiotensinogen leads to angiotensin 1, which is inactive, which leads to angiotensin 2, which is a vasoconstrictor substance. Where is angiotensin 2 activated? Activated in the lungs. How does angiotensin raise blood pressure? By constriction of arterioles, and by increasing the amount of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex. How does the amount of aldosterone increase? By an increase in sodium reabsorption from proximal convoluted tubule and water uptake from distal convoluted tubule, which leads to an increase in blood pressure. What is retention? An increase in sodium and water uptake from proximal and distal convoluted tubules. What kinds of cells are afferent arterioles? They are smooth muscle cells, JG. What do they look like? They look like squamous epithelial. What are 3 factors that can increase your chances of having hypertension? Being lazy, genetic predisposition to hypertension, and depression due to loss of mate.